All right, Average Best Cornhole back again, and today we have some good guys bags, and there's some newer guys on the block, and they kind of just got started this summer, right?
Yeah, I stumbled across them on Facebook. Literally this past summer they started, and it says, a couple cornhole enthusiasts that want to make pro quality bags and be transparent about that. And you can see it on the website. I mean, there's so much detail on the website, like explaining the bags and the resins and all the processes. And they donate some of their profits to charity, which is kind of cool if you like that. Anyways, we picked up a set of Warriors here because they have a very unique hybrid backside that's a little bit faster.
Yep.
And then the Catalyst, I mean, it has a very common hybrid fast side.
Right into the baggage with the speeds on these. And on the Catalyst, we do have a 8 fast side and a 5.5 on the slow side. And then we got a 9 fast side on the Warrior and a 6.5 on the slow side. Now, this material does slow down the more you play it and stuff, but right out of the gate, it's a pretty quick bag.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a full notch faster than the Catalyst. It is a little bit faster than the other common hybrids, which it is, especially when you're playing on the boards. I had some that flew off the back.
Yep.
Totally my fault, but if I missed the mark, it was hard to judge that speed, because it was a little bit faster.
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't say it's a ton faster. I even told you that I felt a lot of comparisons, but enough to notice. And
moving on to the material and Catalyst here, it has that very, very common slow side hybrid. We call that the clone hybrid. This is the one that you'll find on the Guardian, the Wolverines, and the Darts. And then the fast side, that's your common 8-speed fast side. Bag really, really, really reminded me of a Dart.
it did. Yep.
And this slow side hybrid, I mean, it's gaining a lot of popularity. You see this coming out on a lot of new bags nowadays, and I think there's reasons why.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it on several of the last bags that we've reviewed, so it's definitely one of the big materials out there. And getting into the Warrior, we have another unique hybrid on this one. A little more polyester in the blend. I think that's where they're getting a little bit additional speed out of it. One thing we will say is it's a delicate material, so be careful with it. We abuse our bags pretty good to really break them in and get the best feel for them. And we'll kind of get into a little bit later, as we did experience a little bit of wear and tear on these.
Jump into the template and the bag. The template, it's more like a medium small. They seem to feel a little bit smaller than medium to me. They are fuller. I would call them a fuller bag. And what's crazy is that both series, across all 8 of these bags, the weight was very similar. All the measurements was very similar. And it's almost like the same bag, just with different materials.
Yeah, I definitely feel that they, feel like a small template. That's why as soon as those Catalysts just started throwing, we both were like, wow, this feels like that tiny little dart in our hand. So feel flop on these, like we both said, they have a pretty full feel to them. They're not what we would call floppy bags. They both offer what they call their Tri-Tech blend of, it's probably a mixture of, the 3, common ones. We probably got some flats, maybe some rounds or just some filler beads in there. But we actually both kind of liked the fill that was in there. The bags felt great, and they reacted on the board in a way that we liked.
So on to bagmanship, and I was impressed when I got these bags. And that's one of the things, like, you find this brand new company, you don't know any information about them, and you go out on this limb and order the bags, and they came in, they're pro-style bags, just without the stamp. I was very impressed with the bagmanship. Everything looks to be sewed good. The sublimation is great, and they had really good hand feels.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned before, we did have a material failure on one of the bags. We're not even going to point it out because it's not necessary, but we did reach out to the company, and Craig, tell us how that went.
Yeah, so that's the only good thing about that. You get to test someone's customer service, and I did reach out, with pictures, and I was like, hey, have you seen this happen? They responded. They're willing to make it right, instantly, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So thumbs up on the customer service there, good guys.
So we're moving on to our slide up, and we're going to start with the break-in method, and this one is easy. Good guys offer their own break-in service. Pay a little bit extra, but it's not bad. Bags were delivered, and they were ready to play, game ready. So I was very satisfied with that break-in method.
Forgiveness on these bags, and I'll start with the Catalyst, and we're both, I think, on the same page here. We're starting to think that clone carpet's probably one of the more forgiving carpets out there. I had really no complaint about either bags, really, but the Catalyst really stood out as well as just, it did what I wanted to. It, still get some unexpected kicks here and there. Does have that tri-blend in it.
Yeah,
it's the smaller, fuller template, so you're no matter how good you throw it, you're going to get a little unexpected kicks with that,
but for what that bag is.
Right, yeah. You get a small, full, active bag, you don't think forgiveness, but, it did pretty well.
And I think the Warrior probably had a little bit more forgiveness.
Yeah.
But they well, I'm talking like minuscule, because they played very, very similar. It's just that extra speed probably aided in a little bit more forgiveness, but it's not forgiving when it goes off the back, and that did happen, and there was less of a chance of that one going off the back.
Good point.
Whole bodiness, and I don't know if I would consider either one of these series like a whole magnet, you know, smaller, fuller.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't have any extra drip, right? I mean, if your shot was on and you got near a hole or whatever, they seem to fall because, you know, we did say they're fuller, but they're still, you know, it's a floppier fuller, I guess.
Yeah.
And the Warrior, the good thing about that bag is what I was able to do is, you know, with that speed, just like bully around something, kind of push through it, and then you catch the side of the hole and it swings around and falls down, like, you know, what you want fast bags to do.
Yeah, to me, the Warrior was just a little bit more hole friendly because of the little bit faster side. So you catch that hanger, it was more likely to slip in than we saw with the Catalyst. Collectability on these, and I'll start with the Catalyst, and it was excellent, really. I thought I had no issues when I hit my spot. You know, that fuller bag, they just they do that tumbleweed effect that I love, and they just, you know, find their way into the hole. I wouldn't say it's the greatest collecting bag in the world, but it's up there, man. It's, you know, a great bag. You know, you put one in front, you're going to get it.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem collecting with either one of them, other than the Warrior. Sometimes, like, again, go back to the speed. You know, sometimes you'd blow past your collect, but if you were straight on, there was no blowing past. It was just going through it, grabbing it, taking anything else in its way also.
Yeah, they grabbed into each other very well, both bags. The Catalyst probably a little bit easier because of, you know, the little bit slower speed. So if you didn't really hit the middle of the bag, you caught the corner, you're more likely to bring it with you than, you know, slide under that corner and just zip by.
So now it's time for capable shots, and I think probably both these bags can do it all. I mean, the Catalyst for sure, that's your dirty style game. It's easy to lay blocks. It's easy to collect your blocks. People can roll that bag. We had good success cutting them.
Yeah.
The same with the Warrior. We were able to cut those a little bit and manipulate them. It's more of going to be the hole runner out of the two, though, I think. Like I stated before, you know, if there is a blocker up there, just bully past it, you know, and nudge it out of the way or go right through it and take it into the hole with you.
Yeah, the Warrior I would struggle to play that dirty game with just because it was so fast. I'd have to change my throw considerably to get that to stop in front of the hole. So I wouldn't even consider it with that bag. But the Catalyst, easy blockers, easy collect, cut great. And the Warrior cut great for me as well. We've been working a lot on, you know, controlling our cuts and stuff. So it was nice to get out and throw these and actually see that intended action each time. So I felt really good about cutting after we threw these last time. All right, so we're going to talk about what we think is the targeted throwers for these bags, right? So your Warrior is going to be, you know, that hole runner, right? So if you just like to run holes, you don't really play much of a dirty game, but you need something that's going to be able to maybe cut around blockers and things like that, you know, that's what the Warrior's for. The Catalyst, that's, you know, more of if you need that dirty game and stuff. So we think that's more targeted for somebody that really has all the shots in their bag. You know, I would almost say the Catalyst, slightly more advanced player bag versus the Warrior is probably a better bag for a more beginner player.
I agree. Or, you know, a backyard player with nice boards or playing outside tournaments or whatever, you know, you're just starting to get into it. Warrior is a great bag because, you know, it is a little bit faster. And it's going to be consistent in all type of climate conditions also. And it's got a good handful, you know, a nice smaller template that's full. And I agree also with the Catalyst. That's probably more of an advanced bag out of these two. And but it's a good learner bag, though. If you do want to learn how to cut and, you know, do a little bit more, that would be a good bag to choose for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where can you find these guys? They do have the main website. That's what you'd be making the purchases. It's just goodguyscornhole.com. They also have a Facebook page. You know, it's at Good Guys Cornhole Co. with a period, and that's when you'll find out a little bit more information about the bags. Now with the designs, like I said, you know, it's a new company. They're starting out. They don't have a whole lot. I mean, each series has a few different colors and a unique design to it, but they're probably waiting to see if people are going to buy their bags. So the more people buy their bags, they're probably going to start loading up more designs. And that leads right to availability. Like I said, go to that website. Most of the time they're available. The last time I checked, these green ones were sold out for some reason, but all the other ones are available there on the website.
Cost on these, and really not bad, $70 before shipping, which is a pretty good price. You know, sometimes we see some of the newer guys a little bit lower than that, but what makes up the difference here is they're donating a portion of the proceeds from these bag sales. So to me, that's a win. You know, we're way under that $100 price, you know, to get some of these, you know, newer or very popular materials in such a good bag at that price. is it's a great job.
And you get the customer service, and the quality and all the good stuff that comes with a smaller company. So our overall thoughts, and we've stated we're impressed with the bags. And I mentioned earlier, it's kind of odd, you're ordering a set of bags from a company you don't know anything about, but I was pleased with what we got, and then we were a little bummed about the one issue we had with the material, but reaching out to them, we found out that they really are some good guys, right?
Yep, that they are. And, just not going to get too much in the overall because we've already talked about our thoughts on these bags, but all I'll say is, if somebody, pulled these out at a Switch tournament, I'd gladly throw them, and I enjoyed the time we spent with them and would throw again.
So we're going to end this like we always do. If you're going to be average at something, you may as well be average at cornhole.